Get me out of this house. When I passed on Granny's desperate plea to my brother David, he exploded in anger, turning as red as a tomato. Then take her yourself. What? Me? You're the one complaining about how we do things. So, you take care of Granny. All right, I'll do it. I had no other choice but to agree. This is a dead end. David's completely controlled by his wife, Emily. The moment I realized it, I was seething with frustration. Emily is the worst. She's treating Granny like a servant and has sweet David under her spell. All for her own gain. I won't let her get away with this. I'll take back everything she's taken from us and leave her in shambles. Determined, I made my way to Granny's room. My name is Betty. I'm a 28-year-old secretary at a real estate firm run by David. I've recently married Stephen, a colleague from the same firm. Stephen, I'll be stopping by my parents' house before I come home today. All right, I'll meet you back at the house. Exchanging such words with Stephen is not out of the ordinary for us. That's how close I am with my family. However, there's a sense of distance I feel within my family. It's the names. My maiden name is Smith. Obviously, that's also Granny Jennifer and my brother David's last name as well. With both parents and grandpa already gone, I'm the only Johnson. It's not that I dislike it, but it does make me feel a bit lonely. I wonder if it'll feel even lonelier when David gets married. David is about to get married. Once he's married, he'll surely prioritize his wife over me. With this slight unease, I headed to my childhood home. Granny lives in a detached house. Apparently, Grandpa built it, and the building itself is quite old. I opened the heavy front door and called out to Granny. I'm home, Granny. Betty, is that you? Come on in. Granny's voice came from the living room. Following her voice, I walked into the living room to see Granny, David, and an unfamiliar woman. The woman gave a polite nod. Pleased to meet you. And who might you be? I'm Emily, your brother David's fiancée. David nodded slightly when I looked at him. I was aware David was getting married. But I didn't expect him to bring his fiancée along. The sudden introduction left me greeting her awkwardly. Pleased to meet you, I'm Betty, his sister. You're married, right? Emily asked, smirking unpleasantly. Thinking she might be interested in me, I simply nodded. Yes. Then why are you back here? You weren't kicked out, were you? Emily's laugh was tinged with sarcasm. Annoyed, I asked for clarification. What do you mean by that? Oh, no. It was just a joke, just a joke. Emily laughed. So, this is the type of person she is. Enjoying belittling others, a person with a nasty character. Realizing Emily's mean-spirited nature, I chose my words carefully to respond. I just stopped by to check on Granny. But it's good timing. I got to greet you. Is that so? Emily frowned. It seems she didn't find my reaction amusing. What did she want by making me angry? Was she planning to say something like she never wants to see me again because of that? While pondering, I turned my back to Emily. I'll go make some tea. We can talk after that. Oh, let me help you. Emily followed me. Once we entered the kitchen, Emily casually closed the door. Then she whispered to me in a voice quiet enough so Granny and the others couldn't hear. Putting on such a sanctimonious face, you're so annoying. Is that your true nature? You are pretending to be quite the nice person. It's the same with you, isn't it? Well, whatever, just don't get in my way. Emily pointed a finger right in front of my nose. Get in your way? The greetings are done, and I'm officially becoming the wife of this house. Eventually, this house will be mine, so let me do as I please without interference. Why would it become yours? A brother's wife has no rights to inheritance. When I countered, Emily smugly replied. If David inherits, it's as good as mine. You, Betty, has no say in it. This is also my family home. Such a noisy woman. I'll tell David you're harassing me and that I'm having second thoughts about our marriage. I was at a loss for words. Indeed, Emily has a bad personality. But it's David who's marrying her. I can't ruin David's marriage on my own. Now that you understand, don't show your face here again. I had no choice but to nod to Emily's words. Half threatened by Emily, I began to visit my family home less and less. Since I used to stop by almost every day, both Granny and David were worried about me. Work has just gotten busier. I made up excuses like that. I kept hoping that David would see Emily's true colors. But David seemed like a different person when talking about Emily. Looking back, he was always so happy. So, I gave up, thinking it would be difficult for him to see. Meanwhile, David and Emily got married. 6 months flew by quickly, and I found it even harder to visit my family home. Even though I used to go there almost every day, now I only visited about once a month. It's not like I can't see Granny anymore. That's how I comforted myself. Then, one day, I visited my family home on a holiday and unusually, Emily was out. Granny, where's Emily? She went out with a man I don't know. David has been on a business trip since the day before yesterday. Seeing the opportunity, I took Granny out shopping. It was our first shopping trip together in a while. I was thrilled. But, contrary to my feelings, Granny seemed downcast. What's wrong, Granny? Oh. It's nothing. Granny dodged the question. But I found out the reason when we got to the supermarket. Emily took your money. No, it's not like that. Emily is just managing it for me. But it's your money, right? Why is Emily managing it? When I asked, Granny began to explain little by little. Shortly after David and Emily got married, Emily began pressuring Granny to hand over her account. I'll manage the money from now on. That's how Emily took control of Granny's account and stopped giving her any money at all. Furthermore, she dumped all the household chores on Granny and wouldn't even let her eat until they were done. Granny wasn't allowed to spend money freely, go outside, or even meet with friends. I buy you whatever you need, don't I? That was Emily's justification. What is that about? I was about to explode with anger. This is practically slavery. I had to do something. With that in mind, I took Granny to a nearby mobile phone shop. There, I got Granny a mobile phone she could use. Keep this with you. Why? I really want to help you right away, but Emily will definitely interfere. So, for now, think of this as a lucky charm. I taught Granny how to use the mobile phone. That's all I could do for the moment. I needed to prepare various things. My mind was filled with thoughts of Granny. Then, on a certain holiday, a woman named Melissa who lived in the same apartment complex visited my room. Betty, can we talk? It's about Jennifer. Melissa started like that. She was an old friend of Granny's, and they used to meet regularly. According to Melissa, she hadn't been able to see Granny recently. I even tried visiting her house earlier. Earlier, Melissa had gone to see Granny for a particular reason. But Emily came out and drove Melissa away. She's the worst. She dumps all the housework on me, and she's always out having fun. She's too busy harassing me to have any time to see you. That's what she apparently said. That's exactly what Emily has been doing. Hearing Melissa's story, I was utterly furious. Also, when I was leaving, I caught a glimpse of Jennifer, and she looked much thinner. Her complexion was bad too. You should really take her with you. It had only been a few weeks since I last saw Granny. What happened in this short time? I immediately called Granny's mobile phone. Right away, I heard Granny's screaming voice. Help me, Betty! Get me out of this house! The moment I heard that, I rushed out of the house. Jumping into my car, I headed for my family home. Granny! Are you okay? Shouting at the entrance, a surprised David came out. "What's all the fuss about?" "David, the thing is..." I spilled everything Emily did to Granny to David. But David just frowned and ignored it. "Emily wouldn't do such a thing." "You're mistaken." "But Granny said get me out of..." The moment I said that, David's face turned red as he yelled at me. "Enough! Then take her in yourselves." "What? Me? You have a problem with how we do things, right? Then you take care of Granny." "Yes, I'll take her in." I had no choice but to agree. It's hopeless. He's completely under Emily's control. Realizing that, I was so frustrated I could hardly stand it. Emily is the lowest of the low. She's treating Granny like a slave, and has sweet David under her thumb. And she does all this just to benefit herself. I'll never forgive her. I'll take back everything she's taken from us and leave her in shambles. With my resolve set, I headed to Granny's room. As I opened the door, Granny came rushing out. "Thank you for coming." Granny was in tears. As I hugged her, I realized she had become shockingly thin. "Granny, are you eating properly?" "Yes, I'm fine." Contrary to her words, the sound of Granny's stomach rumbling could be heard. Hearing that, I told Granny, "Granny, come to my house. Let's eat till we're full together." I took Granny's hand and led her out of the room. Heading to the entrance, Emily was waiting for us. With a displeased look, Emily said to me, "Are you really taking her?" "I've been patient until now, but I can't take it anymore. You'll be troubled without access to Granny's pension, though." "I don't know what you're talking about, but leave the payment for the care I've provided." Emily stretched out her hand, demanding money at this point. She really has some nerve. Ignoring that, I brushed off Emily's hand. "You must be satisfied now, driving Granny out. You'll get the house, and you can live here with David. If you're willing to renounce your inheritance, I might just be able to overlook this." Emily burst into laughter. Angered, I snapped back in a fit of pique. "I'll renounce the inheritance, but if you plan to live here, you need to pay rent." "Rent? Why?" "This house is in Granny's name. If you're kicking Granny out to live here, it's only natural you pay rent or buy the place." David panicked at my words. "What's that supposed to mean? This is my family home." "So what? Legally, it's Granny's house. It's not your house right now." "That's..." David was at a loss for words. Looking back and forth between David and Emily, I confidently stated, "I'm more knowledgeable about these issues as a real estate agent. David, you have two choices. Pay rent or buy the house. Let me know what you decide." I briskly closed the front door and left the family home. Then, I helped Granny into the car. "Sorry for being late." "It's fine. I'm just glad you came." While we were talking, Emily came out of the house. She approached me, yelling, "I'll buy the house, just as you want. But in return, never show your face to me again." "Do you have that kind of money?" "Of course. I was a popular restaurant worker." She must have made her money working at a club. That would explain her wide circle of friends. I calmly informed her. "Then, I'll have my real estate agent to handle it." "Huh? Are you planning something sneaky?" Emily glared at me. "It's necessary for a fair sale." "Fair sale? You should sell it for less at times like these. Pay back for the care I've provided," Emily shouted, pointing at Granny. However, I responded as calmly as I could. In family home sales, if it's sold below market value, it can be considered a gift. Then, you'd have to pay a gift tax. But... Emily fell silent at my words. With a glance at Emily's frustrated face, I got into the car. "Well, anyways, you really wasted an opportunity." "Huh?" Granny is a flower arrangement teacher. Yet, you kept her locked up in her room and turned away people who came to see her. What a waste. At that moment, Emily had a realization. A flower arrangement teacher? Don't tell me the people who came to the house were her students? Indeed, Granny had been teaching flower arrangement classes at home. Melissa was not only a friend but also one of her students. That's why she had been visiting Granny, only to be turned away for no reason, leading to the current situation. She has more than 10 students. Each pays a few $dozen per class, which adds up to a significant income. You've wasted several $100s. Emily looked down, visibly frustrated by my words. With a sideways glance at Emily, I left with Granny in the car. On the way home, I contacted Stephen. Upon arriving, Stephen was there to greet us. Dinner is ready. Come inside, both of you. Come on, Granny. Stephen led Granny to the living room. While Granny was eating, we discussed what to do next. After a long discussion, Stephen suggested that Granny could live in his cottage. It's in the countryside, but there's a shop nearby, and there are people living around it. Stephen's cottage was inherited from his father. Located in the mountains of the neighboring state, a place I had visited several times. I think it's a good idea since you'll be busy with selling the house and all. What do you think, Granny? It's a quiet place where you can relax. Granny nodded at my suggestion. Now, the only thing left is to sell the house. Leave that to me. Actually, I have a cunning plan. A cunning plan? Stephen looked puzzled. I quietly shared my plan with Stephen. I see, that's a nice idea. I'm confident about it. We'll take back everything that was taken from Granny. I clenched my fist. A few days later, I summoned Emily and David to the real estate agent's conference room. However, only Emily showed up. Where's David? He's staying at home. Probably feeling guilty, I guess. Emily sneered unpleasantly. As long as you're paying, that's fine. Let's get started, then. I proceeded with the sale process, having other employees present as witnesses. But soon, Emily began to complain. What's this? Such a hassle. But you need to listen to the explanation properly. Huh? Enough already. It's going to sell at market price anyway, right? This is the fair price, isn't it? Emily asked one of the employees nearby. The employee quietly nodded. Then, this is fine. But there are still detailed explanations. So noisy. I said it's fine. Eventually, Emily barely glanced at the contract. She just checked the selling price and signed. Then, asking an employee to handle the title transfer, Emily quickly stood up. Well, take care of the rest. I have a date with my boyfriend. Boyfriend? Ah, never mind. Emily covered her mouth in an exaggerated manner. I glared at Emily and pressed on. Didn't you just say you have a date with your boyfriend? Why would I say that? I'm married. Seeing my gaze, Emily suddenly became angry. If you're going to make strange accusations, I'll sue. I'll even complain to your company. I'm sorry. Humph. Good if you understand. By then, Emily left the conference room with a triumphant look on her face. Just you wait. Even if you come crying and apologizing, I will never forgive you. I barely held back my laughter as I saw Emily off. About a month after that contract, Emily stormed into the company. Hey! Bring that woman out here! Emily was causing a scene at the company's reception. I hurried over to where Emily was. How may I assist you, ma'am? Don't ma'am me. What is the meaning of this? What seems to be the problem? I asked with a forced smile, prompting Emily to raise her voice even more. My money keeps disappearing. And it's being withdrawn under Betty's name. Bang. Emily slammed her account statement on the reception desk. I took a quick glance at it. Then, with a malicious smile, I informed Emily. I don't see any problem. Why do I have to pay you? I've already paid for the house purchase. Indeed, we had received the lump sum for the house a little while ago. But the withdrawal she was talking about was something else. Seeing as she didn't understand, I explained to Emily in detail. That would be the leasehold fee. Leasehold fee? What's that? It's the fee for renting the land, also known as ground rent. Actually, the land that Granny's house is built on belongs to me. Not that I owned it from the start. When I started working, I found out my family home was built on leased land, so I went out of my way to buy it. This way, you won't have to worry about eviction, should anything happen. That really helped me. I've been worried about it for a long time. Talking with Granny like that is also a fond memory. That aside, I pressured David and Emily to purchase the house. But I never said it included the land. Of course, I properly explained this to Emily at the time of the sale. However, Emily was too impatient to listen to my explanation. I expected this to happen, and she perfectly fell into my trap. As I was smiling, Emily, with an enraged expression, shouted at me. This is fraud! I explained during the contract signing. And it's also clearly stated in the contract. Though, I must admit, the leasehold fee is quite high compared to the market. I smiled, and Emily bit her lip and retorted. Charging more than the market rate is fraud. No, the leasehold fee varies depending on the local situation. It's determined by the agreement between the lessee and the lessor. You agreed to my proposal, didn't you? When I asked, Emily shook her head. I didn't know anything about it. You said this is fine at the time of signing, didn't you? Well. Even Emily seemed to recall something at that point. I looked firmly at Emily, who was avoiding my gaze, and quietly stated. That's the situation, so please continue to pay the leasehold fee. Don't joke with me. This is the same as paying rent. That's your problem, isn't it? It has nothing to do with me. Remember this! I'll definitely sue you. Emily ranted. She grabbed the account statement she had slammed down and turned her back on me with a swirl. Since we have an agreement based on an official contract, complaining won't change anything. Moreover, if you default on the leasehold fee, we will file a lawsuit for eviction. Shut up! I don't care! If it comes to a lawsuit, be prepared for enforcement to eventually take place. As I said this, Emily fled like she was escaping. I couldn't stop laughing. Emily's options from now on are limited. She either continues to pay me the leasehold fee or sells the house to someone else. While fighting in court is not entirely out of the question, it's not a realistic option. In any case, none of these options benefit Emily. But this isn't the end. We're going to get Granny's money back, too. I braced myself for what was to come. That night, I went to David's house with certain documents in hand. When I rang the doorbell, David answered. What? Betty? It's been a while. I need to talk to you. While we were talking, Emily burst out from the back. What are you doing here? Emily stamped her feet in frustration. I glared at Emily and said firmly. I have something to discuss. If you refuse, we'll just have to go to court. Court? I've checked Granny's account records. There were frequent withdrawals, but they weren't made by Granny. Emily remained silent at my words. I looked at David and asked. Emily has been using Granny's money. There are witnesses too. What will you do? Okay. Come in, let's talk. At that moment, Emily shouted. Don't listen to her. Shut up! It seemed David had his suspicions. Inside the house, I laid out several documents in front of David. These are the bank records. And here are the written statements from witnesses. Witnesses? Who would know about our family matters? Your boyfriend? No, your affair partner. You bragged in front of him, it seems. He thought you were someone who could provide him with money. As I sneered, David's complexion changed. He turned a sharp gaze towards Emily and demanded loudly, "What's this about an affair partner? That's not true. Betty's just making things up." Emily was flustered. "I heard it from Granny. Your affair partner, he came to the house several times, didn't he? And you yourself said it during the house sale, remember?" "Huh? I don't know what you're talking about. You said you were going on a date with your boyfriend, didn't you? If you don't remember, shall I remind you?" I took out my mobile phone and played the voice recording from the contract signing. The moment Emily mentioned boyfriend was recorded. "That's not true. It's edited. It's genuine. I always record for accuracy, and besides, I've gathered evidence of your affair." I said this as I placed a stack of reports on the table. It was an investigation report on Emily's behavior. David muttered while looking at it. "I've always believed in you. Even with Granny's situation, I trusted you over Betty. And now an affair. That's it. We're getting a divorce." Emily snapped at David's declaration. "Fine then. Give me back the money I paid for this house. First, return Granny's money. And the divorce settlement." "Shut up. I can easily pay that. I can earn as much as I want if I go back to the club." Emily slammed the table. That's when I quietly made my point. Going back to the club might not be so easy. "Why not? Have you looked in the mirror lately? All that playing around has made you quite a bit plumper than before." At that moment, Emily turned pale. In fact, Emily had gained a few dozen pounds since the beginning of her marriage. Well, best of luck with that. I left those words behind and exited David's house. In the end, David decided to divorce Emily and demanded compensation for her affair. There was some dispute over the amount, but it was eventually settled through mediation. Furthermore, I demanded that Emily return Granny's money. Thanks to Emily's affair partner, who talked, Emily couldn't argue back and agreed to return the money promptly. She honestly offered to return the money. However, in order to get Granny's money back, Emily demands for her money back by giving up the house. Reluctantly, I accepted her request. Emily returned to working at the club to pay the compensation to David. But Emily had changed in both style and everything else. Naturally, she couldn't earn as much as before. She was quickly moved to a back office role, and now, it's said she's working a lot behind the scenes at the club. On the other hand, perhaps because David felt he had no face to show us, he moved away as if fleeing. He now lives quietly alone in a small apartment. Meanwhile, I've been incredibly busy with Granny's move. I visited Granny almost daily and ran around handling the house's title transfer, among other things. And today, as things have finally settled down, Stephen mentioned something during lunch. "Hey, I was thinking, why don't we live with Granny from now on?" It goes without saying that I immediately agreed. I plan to discuss it with Granny today.